This program is brought to you by First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?
A few weeks ago on the program, we discussed the new Consumer Protection Act of 2018 with consumer rights activist Richard Harriman. Now, in detailing some key aspects of the new act, he noted that not only was it criminal to promote Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes, it was also illegal to be a willing participant in them. The First Issues team noted with concern the confusion and apparent anger from members of the public on social media regarding this news. To add insult to injury, the masses were hit with a press release from the Bank of Botswana stating that pyramid schemes and other illegal deposit-taking activities were unlawful in the country, as the nature of these operations constitute illegal deposit-taking from the public, violating the Banking Act. Forbes reports that from 2008 to 2013, there were over 500 Ponzi schemes that collectively resulted in money amounting to over 500 billion pula and near crashes of some international banks. Individuals have been known to blindly sell their homes, spend all their lives' savings and even cash out on pension funds to invest in these schemes, but only to end up losing everything when the schemes collapse. All these things happen in spite of all the efforts made to warn Batswana about the dangers of joining quick-on-return money schemes. Leading to the new Consumer Protection Act, such entities as the Consumer Watchdog have been one of many that spearheaded campaigns on sensitizing the public on the dangers of Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes and their impacts on both local and global markets. Before closer inspection, the two schemes appear quite similar as they both depend on money from new recruits, but there are some striking differences. Ponzi schemes are based on pretentious investment management services, where basically investors contribute money to the portfolio manager after being promised high returns. These returns are, however, dubious, as the money paid back is simply funds from new recruits. What the head honcho in the scheme does is merely move money around from one client to the next, forgoing any real investment activities, and then ultimately collapse in the scheme when they feel they have collected enough money. At this point, investors start hearing stories that the website of the scheme is shut down or the portfolio manager has relocated, when in actual fact they have abandoned the whole operation and run away with all the money. Pyramid schemes, on the other hand, are structured in a manner in which one member recruits more members and then those members recruit others. For example, member A recruits 3 people to group B and those people pay member A. Group B then recruits 3 people each to group C. This group then pays group B and member A, and so on and so forth. How much money one makes is solely dependent on how many people are recruits, ultimately leading to a pyramid-like structure. Sometimes one of the incentives found in this type of scheme can be dressed as an investment opportunity in the form of sellable goods and products. To paint a much clearer, more broader picture on this matter, we have once again invited consumer rights activist Richard Harriman to the program. Why was it necessary for Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes to be criminalized?
Because they are criminal. It's as simple as that. It is illegal to run pyramid and Ponzi schemes in Botswana. The new Consumer Protection Act specifically makes them both illegal, but also existing legislation like the Bank of Botswana's rules about banking, they forbid people and organisations from doing certain things with money. And that's to protect consumers. Yeah. Because despite what some people who run these schemes say, they're not there to benefit consumers, they're to steal money from consumers. They are illegal money-stealing operations, and they are immoral, and they deserve to be illegal, and it's good that they are.
But seeing you just mentioned that the Bank of Botswana has put out information, really, that these are illegal. There's an issue of them violating the Banking Act. If we were to legalize them, or if they were to regulate them, not legalize, excuse me, regulate them, do you think that the issue would be made better?
No, because you can't regulate crime. Crime is criminal. A criminal action is criminal, and so should it be. If someone commits a crime, if you murder or you steal or you do anything else ghastly that's illegal, you deserve to pay the price. You face the consequences. You don't regulate theft, you outlaw it. It's as simple as that.
As much as it is illegal, as much as it is to protect the consumer, what we've noticed is that people feel like they can't be told what to do with their money. How then do you make them see that it is really not about the individual or you being controlled on how to use your money?
I do, and I'm a huge believer in freedom. As individuals, as consumers, we should have freedom to spend our money where we choose to. But if you saw your best friend walking towards some muggers that you knew were going to mug him, wouldn't you stop him from doing that? Wouldn't we do that would we do that for our family and our friends and for total strangers? We would do that because we're decent people. And as a society and as individuals, I think we have an obligation where we see people about to be the victims of crime to do our very best to stop those things happening. As if your mother was about to be mugged, you would do anything necessary to stop that happening. And I think it's similar when we see people about to fall victim to crime, financial crime such as pyramid schemes and Ponzi schemes. We have a moral obligation as individuals and as a society to stop it happening.
I think part of the problem is the confusion about what they are. How different are Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes from your traditional investment platforms?
Your point is a very good one because it's often particularly this latest pyramid scheme that was put out of business, claimed to be a Mozzella scheme. It claimed, everyone would say, it's not a pyramid scheme, it's a Mozzella. It's not. A Mozzella is I respect Mozzella schemes. I think it's a very good way for many of us to sort of save a little bit of money, put money aside. But it's a community savings scheme that you then borrow money from. There's no recruiting of other people. They're usually a fixed size. There's 5 people, 10 people, 20 people that's fixed, and we all put money in each month, and some of us we take turns to take money out. That's how a Mozzella scheme works. And that's a perfectly good thing to do. So long as there's a bank account and there's a nominated individual who keeps records and so on, and those things are open to the members. And also to NBFIRA, by the way, because the law is quite simple. Mozzella schemes are covered by NBFIRA, the Non-Bank Financial Institutions Regulatory Authority. They're regulated. So let's keep with those. Let's keep Mozzella scheme keep working. Pyramid schemes are different. They're about recruitment. Any scheme that requires you to recruit more people, and then for those people to recruit others, and so on and so forth, that's a pyramid scheme. A Mozzella scheme does not work like that. You don't have to go and recruit new people. A pyramid scheme is about recruitment, and each level pays money to join, and then they get more people to join beneath them. That's a pyramid scheme. This latest scheme that was put out of business, Global Dream Network, was a pyramid scheme. Every time you engage with the people in the scheme, they said it's about recruiting other people. You've got to hire 4 more people, and they hire 4 more people. Then also you have to pay to upgrade to the next level. So this is how that scheme worked. It was not a Mozzella scheme. It simply was not. It was a pyramid scheme. And every conversation I had with people and other conversations I've seen with people in that scheme, they made it very clear it's about recruiting other people, not about a monthly savings mechanism.
Why is it so difficult to get people out of that?
The observation that I've made, and many other people have made before me, is that when you meet people in a pyramid scheme or in a Ponzi scheme, and a scam like this, it's remarkably similar to meeting people who are in a religious cult. I don't mean mainstream religion. I mean people who joined a cult, like the Scientologists and all the others that are around. There's absolutely no way you can convince them that they're wrong. It's extremely hard to convince someone in a cult that their belief system is wrong, because they have powerful, confident leaders who are charismatic. They have a dogma, a set of fundamental beliefs. They have defense mechanisms that they're taught. It's exactly like joining one of these really strange religious cults. It's very difficult to persuade people that they're wrong, that they're being abused. It's also, I've met people, a few people have come forward to us after they've been a victim of a pyramid scheme in particular, and sometimes a Ponzi scheme like Eurex Trade. They've come to us and said, they've spoken honestly about how humiliated they felt when they discovered it was a scam, how embarrassed, how ashamed they were. This is one of the toxic things about these schemes, is they damage people profoundly, like a religious cult. Not mainstream religion, I mean these cults. They genuinely cause massive psychological damage to people, because imagine how terrible it must feel after a year, 2 years in a cult or a scheme like this to realise you were wrong. And worse still, you abused other people. Because when you join these pyramid schemes, your job is to recruit more people. You become complicit in the scheme. You become part of the crime itself. Now, it's interesting that the new Consumer Protection Act is very clear about this. It bans the promotion of pyramid schemes and Ponzi schemes. It also bans joining them. And I think that's because they understand, the authors of the Act understand that even joining a scheme, you become part of it. You are the product in a pyramid scheme. You are the thing that's making more money for the organisers. And it's desperately sad when you meet people who've been through this realisation that for a year or more, sometimes 2, 3, 4 years, they've been abusing themselves and other people. It's terribly sad.
What is the future of help? It's to help people find the great in themselves. The drive, the passion. Help them find their true potential. Help them stretch. Help them grow. That's why we help people help themselves, help the world, because a little help goes a long, long way. FNB, how can we help you?
Welcome back to First Issues. In our last episode, we understood that the effects of debt go much farther than just the indebted individual, affecting those within the immediate circles and sometimes being responsible for the breakdown of the family unit. We also found out that poor mental health problems brought on by financial pressures could lead to underperformance at the workplace, which can ultimately do the country's economy under. Various studies have shown that when used wisely, debt can help accumulate individual and generational wealth. As we wrap up the series on debt tonight, we discuss ways in which we can make debt work for us in the short and the long term. To help us unload and unpack this topic, we have invited once again to the program BonaLife CEO Regina Sikalesele Vaka, who helps us understand what good debt is, what questions are to ask before acquiring any form of debt, and how we can change the perspective on debt moving forward.
For debt to work for you, you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. I think I've spoken earlier about how we're just drifting into debt. But you need to take a step back and have a plan. And from that plan, you'll get a budget, which will dictate to you that this is what you need to do, how you need to use your money. And then you need to be able to identify out of that what you're going to fund using debt. So firstly, because you've got a plan, you will know that you've put the right things on the plan. And secondly, because you've got a budget, you'll understand what you can afford and what you can't afford. So when you are looking to go and get debt, it must be for something that is substantive, that is permanent, not something that is perishable. So you can go and get debt to fund a house because you need your house, and you will not be able to afford a house if you're going to just go on savings. You can get debt to finance your vehicle if you really need to do that, or you can rely on private transportation. So you get good debt to buy things that have got value, and you get bad debt to buy things that are luxury items that you don't need and that are going to perish. For example, you can't get, or you shouldn't get debt to go on holiday, because the holiday is going to come, it's going to go, and you're still going to owe that money and need to pay it back. You can get debt to go and buy a piece of land, because that piece of land is going to appreciate in value over time. It's going to provide you shelter that you need as a necessity, as opposed to being a luxury item. You can't take debt to go out for dinner with your friends. You need to be able to afford to take your friends out for dinner. If you can't, cook for them at home and have your meal at home.
Okay, so what are some of the questions that one needs to ask themselves before acquiring any form of debt? It may be to get good debt, but then you need to ask yourself certain questions and come to a certain conclusion.
You need to ask yourself very probing questions. Who am I? where am I in society? In other words, what can I afford and what can I not afford? Then the next question you have to ask yourself is, but do I need it? And if I do need it, how am I going to pay for it? So a lot of the times we don't ask ourselves that very probing question of, but really, where am I, who am I? If you're just coming out of university and you are getting your first job, you need to understand that I might not be able to have that 5-bedroomed house. I need to have a 1.5 room somewhere so I can build up. But a lot of the times we get so carried away in looking at what the next person is doing and equating our lifestyle to that person's lifestyle when we don't understand what that person's income is, where they get that income from, what other sources of income that they have. So you need, the very first question you need to ask yourself is, but who am I? And where am I in this journey of life? What do I need? And how can I pay for it? Can I afford it?
In understanding that and coming to a sense of self-awareness, how then do you determine what kind of debt to get to build you wealth? Because we need to start from a very young age, like you were giving an example of a graduate. Yes.
I think it's important for you in that self-awareness to accept that this is where I am in the journey of life. Because life is a journey. So when you're coming out of university, it's difficult for me to give a global answer because not everybody is the same. So when you're coming out of university, you are not married, you don't have responsibilities. Your approach and your mindset is very different from somebody who's been working for 10 years, has got 2 children that they're educating and need to buy a house for the family as well. Maybe they're married, maybe they're not married. But at the end of the day, it should always be about where am I in this journey that is called life? What do I need? What are the essential things that I cannot do without? And how am I going to get those essential things? The rest will follow. 10 years down the line, you might be able to move from a very small house to the next house, but you've worked your way to it. You didn't just jump into the medium cost BHC house when you're coming from university because you can't afford it.
Then we are now understanding that there is such a thing as good debt. You can actually use debt to make wealth for you. But how do we change the perspective that all debt is bad?
We've misused, if I can say, the debt. So the starting point is having a plan. When you have a plan, it drives everything else that comes after that. And it will be able to give you a very good indication of what is good debt and what is bad debt. Because you've got a plan, and you're referring to that plan at every point in time.
What is the future of help? It's to help people find the great in themselves. The drive, the passion. Help them find their true potential. Help them stretch. Help them grow. That's why we help people help themselves, help the world. Because a little help goes a long, long way. FNB, how can we help you?
Welcome back to another installment of our Own Your Day, Own Your Life productivity segment. Now, the disease illusion is one caused by a lot of varying factors, some of which include taking pills for every ache and pain instead of being more active or reducing one's sugar intake or even adjusting one's sleeping hours to between 7 and 8 per day. Resident guest Dr. Kiran Bhagat says there's no specific cure for most of these conditions except making healthier lifestyle choices.
Well, today the major causes of disease again are lifestyle. You know, I'm sure our listeners are tired of me saying this, but it's lifestyle. It's what you put on your plate. It's whether you get enough relaxation. It's whether you move enough. It's whether you sleep enough. It's whether you are eating toxic foods, whether it is fast food, whether it's sugar, whether it's the wrong type of oils, whether it's the fact that you sit all day in front of a computer, whether it's the fact that you don't get between 7 to 8 hours of sleep today. All of these factors begin to intermingle with each other that result in a patient having high blood pressure, that result in a patient being diabetic, that result in a patient having a stroke, that result in a patient developing osteoarthritis. So the end product of a condition where a patient comes and they have terrible gout, or they have terrible arthritis, or they have terrible backache, are conditions that the patient will say, Naka, I have a, marapo atuba, or they'll say, kenala tloho, or they'll say, malaha hadiberikesente. And they want a pill. Because we live in an organization, we live in a society where we live in an industry where people believe there's a pill for every cure, there's a pill for every ill. And when a patient gets to hear, askaja boroto, askaja palechi, they think that these are lifestyle issues that they shouldn't really find cure in. And yet they are the very things that have caused the condition. So for example, if a patient develops heartburn, the treatment for heartburn is not a heartburn pill, because the body is not lacking a heartburn pill. The body is reacting to something that you put in your mouth and swallowed and put in your stomach. And the stomach has now become inflamed with fire, which is acid, and they're getting reflux and they're getting heartburn. So to rush and take a Gaviscon or a Malox or whatever pill you're taking to block the acid doesn't solve the problem. What it does is it alleviates the symptoms. You can take a grandpa pill, or you can take a Miprodol or a Compral for a headache. But if the headache is caused by a brain tumor, for example, the treatment is not to relieve the headache, it's to remove the brain tumor. If the headache is caused by the fact that you're sitting in front of a computer the whole day, is to get you to realize that you need to get up and move around every now and again. You need to stretch yourself, because people are fixated on a computer the whole day. They go home and they watch television and they're so fixated on a different type of screen, or in between that they're watching their cell phone. So you continually flexed, so you have headache. We're seeing this in children today as well, that you have this flexed posture, so whole of the upper torso becomes tense. You get a headache and you expect a pill for that as well. It's the same with insomnia. People are having lack of sleep because they're watching the television all the time. The television or the monitors of the computer emit a blue light. That blue light switches off the hormones that put you to sleep. So if you watch the computer, or you're watching your Netflix, or you're watching DSTV, or you're watching BTV, or you've just come from the office watching a blue screen on a computer, the brain still thinks that it's the blue sky of the world, and so it says it's not time to sleep. So that when you switch off the lights, it doesn't mean the brain goes to sleep. The brain is still switched on because the hormones called melatonin have not been switched on. So that's what causes insomnia. So the patient then comes to the doctor and said, I can't sleep, can I have a sleeping pill? So these are the conditions that we are increasingly seeing, and there are no specific cures for this, and this is what we're trying to get our public to understand, that there is a delusion that you have a disease rather than a lifestyle issue that you need to correct.
Link up again with us next week on our Own Your Day, Own Your Life productivity segment. We will get to understand how urbanization has been a contributing factor to the regressing state of human health. Until then, good night. This program was brought to you by First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?